Hey friends, Editor Tim here with a couple quick notes before we get this episode started. This episode is a recap of Season 1 and our interview with Chris Georginas. Unfortunately, due to some scheduling issues, we did have to record this episode remotely, and the audio gets a little dicey at times, and for that, I do apologize. Second of all, I just want to say thank you for all the new listeners who came across our podcast and have reached out. Thank you for all the kind words. We really appreciate it, but we'll be back next week for Season 2, Episode 1, Politics. Thanks again for listening, and enjoy the episode. Hello, and welcome back to Rewatching Home Movies, a weekly watch-along podcast where three friends break down the 2001 Adult Swim animated series, Home Movies. My name is Tim, and I am obsessed with home movies.
My name's Adele, and I'm a home movies newbie.
My name is Marcin, and I've never seen home movies.
Home Movies, Season 1. That's it, just Season 1. Plus an interview with Chris Georginas. That is what we are talking about today. Welcome, everyone. Hello. Hi.
It is me, and you, and also you.
It is us, Rewatching Home Movies. Yeah, so this is going to be kind of a little bit of a special episode. Last week we dropped the interview I did with Chris. So I wanted to talk about it a little bit. So I think we're going to touch base on that for a bit, and then we're just going to talk about our feelings about Season 1 in general. That's what we're here to do today.
So we're not doing another Creative Corner.
No.
No creative corners. I think creative corners are for official episones only.
Yeah.
Not bonus episodes.
Unless, I guess our creative corner could be the interview. Because, I mean, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah, it's our collective creative corner.
Let me just say first and foremost, holy cow, that interview was so much fun. Chris is such just a chill, down-to-earth, cool dude. And I am still in a little bit of disbelief that he was, one, willing to talk to me about home movies. But two, I think our original message, I asked him for about 20 minutes of his time. And that interview was like a solid hour.
Hell yeah.
Not just a solid hour, but like a solid hour of a lot of nuggets were flushed out, were said. A lot of things were... I was actually blown away by a lot of different reveals throughout it. And
oh, yeah.
Dude dropped a lot of nuggets of wisdom.
If I'm being completely honest, again, when I found out Chris had worked on home movies and I checked out his IMDb, it just says animator and editor. When he made the revelation, and it was so offhanded of like, yeah, I think McGurk was me. I think I created that one. Like, I had to push my chair back for a second and be like, holy shit, dude. Like, I had no idea, like, you know, I was speaking to someone who essentially helped create all the characters. Him, and I think he gave credit to Kim O'Neill, pretty much sat down and fleshed out a majority of the characters.
I think he said he also might have done Paula as well.
Yeah, and like in the same offhanded, like, oh yeah, and I think Paula too, yeah.
The thing that I really appreciated and liked is that I think at one point he mentioned that they were just a bunch of kids in a studio just trying to have fun, and they really weren't like expecting it to take off. So it like, I think it really shows through that it was more of a passion project than trying to like make it big. And I really appreciate that.
It definitely made me feel a lot better about many of the projects that I've worked on where that imposter syndrome sets in wherever you are. And I have always had this idea, like I've always moved the goalpost with myself as far as, if I got a budget, I would feel better about myself. If I had this, I would feel like I was meant to be here. I would feel more professional if I was this, that, or the other. And I don't think that's true. I think no matter where you are as a creative, especially a self-aware creative, I think you're just destined to believe you don't belong. And Chris's story about how he showed up and he's like, oh yeah, I'm an illustrator, let me just drop this off. And then not to get back into the generational gap, but the idea of literally going to somewhere and dropping off your resume with them, which you just don't do anymore. Like that sounds like such a dream. And for him to be like as honest with them on the phone, like, no, I don't know how to animate. And they're like, that's okay. It's like, where'd you get this? Please.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of their experience was learning by doing. Mm-hmm. And hearing that, I think because, I hold home movies in such high regards, and to hear that, again, it was just a couple of kids having fun. I think of a lot of it had to do with the fact that, as he mentions, they didn't have somebody over their shoulder critiquing their every move and putting down all these demands. They were able to just kind of do their thing and learn as they go. So
I think that was my favorite part of it, was that they didn't have a set in stone process. It felt like everyone, from the way that Chris described it, it felt like everyone had an equal footing as far as ideas they could just throw out. Like the idea of the gnomes just becoming an organic thing, which I feel like there's more to the gnome situation. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there's something else there. It feels like there's some secret waiting to be unearthed as far as where the gnomes came from, who came up with the gnomes and whatnot. But the simple fact that it felt so organic to evolve into what it was, that no one really came in saying, no, we can't do the gnomes. It seemed like there's no point of contention from any higher-ups as far as telling them what to do, unless you count saying Jesus Christ at UPN.
Right, or not killing the dog, making it a cat instead.
Yeah. Well, I always heard that gnomes are a symbol of being a swinger, so I'm just going to say it's that.
Dude. That's what I thought about pineapple. Is it pineapples and gnomes?
Yeah, there's multiple different signs to tell people that you're a swinger. And it's an upside-down pineapple.
Oh, it's an upside-down pineapple. Oh, so what about an upside-down pineapple cake?
Shit, that's what you serve at your swinger party.
Yeah, that means you have a sweet tooth and you're a swinger.
It was years before someone explained to me what a key party was, because I saw it in The Grinch, and I
dude.
never understood the joke. Grew up, and I was like, they be fucking in there. They do.
One of the things that really surprised me, that was kind of a knowledge bomb I had no idea about, was Chris explaining the process of season 1, episode 5, the Yoko episode. Mm-hmm. So basically, UPN only ordered 4 episodes. That 5th one was like a add-on. Yeah. And considering UPN approached them and offered no additional time or money, and the feeling of, hey man, we want to score some brownie points with this network, in the hopes that, maybe we'll get picked up for another season or a full season. And so to take on that task out of, realistically, just like semi-obligation to make the network happy, to pull it off in that very short amount of time, to make it such a good episode that's pretty positively received by the community, and then to immediately get dropped by the network.
This is one of those examples of not trusting the company that you work for. Because you're already over budget. Like, I don't know if they got paid more for that episode, but they were just like, we would like another episode, right? Am I missing something there, or?
He made it sound like they requested a 5th episode. The animators and editors said, okay, how much more time, how much additional budget, and UPN kind of replied with, no, thank you. We don't have either of those things to offer you.
See, the way that the scene was set up in my head, the way that he was describing it, felt, and I know you guys haven't seen the show, but The Bear is one of those shows where it's about working in the industry and then trying to work with a team, and everything seems so, like, the anxiety is just like up to the max. So to be at the 4th episode's done, you have no budget for the 5th episode, and weren't they all just at a bar sitting around trying to come up with some ideas for what they could do to possibly make this episode squeak out?
Yeah, so I think what he said was they did like an off-site kind of meeting, so they like weren't at their typical workspace. So they went off site to like have a meeting, and Lauren presented it like, hey, we want to do a favor for the network. I think this would gain us some points. What can we do? And it was, I think Chris said something about, well, if we did that, half of the episode would have to be like in a blackout or something. And that was kind of the catalyst. The wheels started turning in Lauren Bouchard's head, and that's where they came up with the idea to have it at a camp out. It's dark most of the time.
I mean, I don't know if TikTok has just ruined my brain, but when he said that, it's
Yes.
like, yeah. Like it's just the sound bite going through TikTok right now. It should all be dark and just like that. It's like, say that again? What was that? Like, and that's when the music starts swelling, like it's an episode of a TV show. Like, and then the montage happens, and they build and the episode drops, and they're so proud of themselves, and then the network tells them they're all fired.
Yeah, or just
Classic.
disappears into obscurity.
What I do want to mention real quick, he did say that he was like super embarrassed by the flag animation.
Yeah.
And I remember, Marcin, you were like, that's the best part of the whole show. That's the best animation right there is that flag. So I think if he's listening to this, don't be embarrassed because Marcin liked that the best.
No, I did. The thing, I was thinking about it when I was listening to the interview when it was like, oh, he didn't want to watch the show because it was so ugly. I felt bad for like a split second, but I was like, no, it's ugly. It's ugly. It's an ugly
Say it with your
set.
chest. Yeah.
And I will say it with my chest. But I enjoy I enjoy more and more about the show the more I learn about it. Like in the interview when they're like, okay, so we're gonna like cut off these pajamas things and like show the hands and feet, right? And they're like, no, I like it as is. And it's like no animation training, no like character design training. It was just like vibes. No, I'm like, nah, the footy pajamas, they stay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
believe that it gives it an extra layer of charm to know that there was just a bunch of kids who really weren't experienced and they were just kind of thrown into it because you don't hear about that shit anymore. Where like you get a job based on zero experience.
Yeah, I'm putting a team together. They can't be trained or paid well, but I'm putting a team together.
Again, all that I think really speaks to the charm. Chris had mentioned, especially for that episode 5, that he was under such a time constraint, and he brought up that, sometimes people do work better under pressure. Giving someone a 2-week time frame to get something done versus a 2-month could sometimes get a little bit better of a result because they are under that pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not enough time for you to question each decision. You just have to like go with whatever works.
Oh, I was going to say he said something like saying how the beauty was in the imperfections. I don't think they would necessarily have as many of that if they had ample time to work on it, Right.
Or like super strict professionals that like every frame had to be exactly, picture perfect.
Which is kind of why I think I'm really enjoying this. Like, as artists as we all are, like whatever mediums we're working in, we always want our sets or our art or our whatevers to go perfectly.
Yeah.
But then those moments happen that make it just something different, and you didn't want that to be that thing, but then it is, and then it's like, oh, this is how it always should be.
I feel, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I drew a lot of comparisons when Chris was talking about we're learning as we go and we're learning it by doing it and stuff like that. Like I don't know. I feel like that's us a little bit. We started this podcast, like we all have a pretty firm grasp of what a podcast is. I had never edited a podcast episode in my life. I knew nothing about what actually goes into it. So I kind of felt that when he said it, and I've heard people make comments about our podcast having kind of a amateur feel to it sometimes, and it's like, yeah, because we're amateurs, we're learning as we go as well.
I think everyone is an amateur, like even the people who are at the highest tenured position of whatever their field is, they're always a student of the game. You always can get better. You can always learn a new thing. ADHD friendly podcast, but I swear this has a point. I went to a friend Chaz's house and I saw all the pictures. He finally like moved in, put all his pictures up, and something that blew my mind a little bit was like all the pictures he had hung up were like Snapchat pictures, like pictures he took on like shitty phones and whatnot. But he like hung these up, and in my head, I was like, "You're not supposed to do that. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, but it doesn't matter about the quality. It's about like what it meant to me in the moment." And I felt,
Bars.
yeah, exactly.
Bars.
And I feel like that's what this is. It's like.
Yeah.
It's the feel like that's what art should be. It shouldn't be looking as perfect as it should be. It's just about what you created out of what you had. And
Yeah, a memory from a Polaroid picture doesn't mean any less because the quality of the picture is less than, a digital picture from nowadays. Like that memory is still as valid regardless of the medium.
yeah, I wish I learned that a lot earlier, because I remember when I was going from VHS to DVDs, I was like, I'll just get the Blu-ray ones. That way I'll enjoy the movie more. And it's like, no, that's not how that works. The quality might be better, but the movie's still going to be what it is. And I don't know. I guess get away from this exact point, but I think that's one of the things I am so happy about watching this show is I walked in with such a low expectation because I didn't know anything about it. All I know is it was super popular, but I also remembered that moment I turned on the episode and I turned it right back off because it looked so horrendously bad. And just learning more about it has given me such a deep respect for the show, and it makes it so much more enjoyable for me to watch an episode.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I'll say it a million times. It's the charm of the show. The imperfections are the beauty. It's absolutely the charm.
Like you said, Adele, that flag. When it's like that's the worst flag
Right.
ever. I'm like, what are you talking? That's the only piece of animation in this whole show. Let's go.
So yeah, it probably made you feel good to hear that he had a lot of like very, I don't know, he was very self-conscious about that flag animation, and that's like literally, like you said, one of the first episodes, you're like, that's the best animation in the entire show.
The fact that he even brought up the flag when he brought it, I was so amazed because I do remember being like, that is what I came here for.
Right.
Just that one little bit. And it changes the whole transition. It gives some life to the, like, no matter how shitty it is, it gives some life to the universe of home movies. It makes you feel like, oh yeah, maybe there's wind in this world.
Why Brendan's hair is constantly being blown back.
Oh yeah, when he talked about how the character design was the nose forward and the hair back, he would have never done that. And all I could think of was like Phineas.
Yes,
Phineas.
yeah.
Well, that speaks again to like bringing in people who don't have a lot of experience, who look at things from a different perspective. That's probably why they were so eager to bring Chris on as an animator, even though he was just an illustrator, because they're like, dude, you know how to draw. That part is there. We can teach you everything else, and then you can put your own spins and interpretations on it. But sometimes they need those people who are untainted by that world to kind of come in with fresh eyes and offer, different perspectives.
I think representation of people from every single walk of life can be very important no matter what. There's this thing that like everyone talks about it. Oh, you need college for this, you need this, this. Like every job can be taught. Like any professional will tell you, I could take anybody in here and if I sit with them long enough, I can teach them how to do this thing. And when you do that, you bring in these amateurs. Like the greatest movie of all time, Citizen Kane, was made by someone who's never directed or worked on film before, and he was always quoted as saying that the only reason he made something so wonderful was because no one was there to tell me that was a rule to be unbroken. Like he constantly made different things just because he was like, oh, we could do it this way, and then he'd just have to figure it out that way, and created literally a masterpiece. Like the same thing with The Godfather. The first time he wrote a script was The Godfather. He was adapting his own book and made a fantastic movie. And there's that whole story about when he was going to direct the second one, he went to look up some books about how to direct and how to film make, and in the books it said, oh well, here's a good example, The Godfather. So he's like you know what I mean? You hear these stories all the time, and I think that's really why I love this story specifically. So
you felt good that he brought up the flag animation. How did you feel to his answer to my question? Who is your favorite character?
Listen, when you sit and stare and animate a character like for the longest time, you get a bit of Stockholm syndrome. I won't
Oh,
say
no, okay.
All right.
Okay. Wow. Okay,
Get 'em.
dude.
Get him in the comments.
No. Wow. Wow, dude.
Listen,
Oh.
I like
Chris, if you are listening, I'm sorry. He doesn't know what he's talking about, Chris. He's goofball.
He's just a
over here.
baby. He's a baby.
He's a
And-
goofy little baby.
and I've never seen home movies. But I do agree with like what he was saying is like it's fun because like you never know what this guy's gonna say. He's just like this little nasty little kid, and that's exactly why I don't like him.
But he did mention that he's a nasty little kid who has a lot of knowledge, so I'm excited to hear all of his knowledge. Over the next
we've
3 seasons.
just scratched the surface with Jason. I think we're definitely moving out of Jason's gross era, and we're moving into some more favorable eras with Jason.
Jason's gonna glow up.
Yeah.
I'm looking for, honestly, like I am less concerned with the Jason like getting better as much as I am with. I'm very interested to see how the relationship between Jason and Melissa continues because they have not.
I haven't known about that.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to say it right now, I'd like to get back into the interview at some point. I don't know if we want to stick on the interview or just jump back and forth between.
It was something that Tim brought up in the interview, so it's still relates.
Oh, okay. Yeah, bring it up.
So he did bring up the quote that Jason says about we're not here to make friends, we're here to make movies.
Yeah.
And oh my god, when he said that, I was like, oh my god, he's not there to be friends with Melissa. He's there to make movies.
Holy shit, you're right.
Yep.
I didn't even think about that to apply not only to Lonnie, but then to Melissa and Brendan as well.
Exactly. Which shows his passion, really.
It does show his passion. I will give you that. But the quote I can't get out of my head is it's not. We'll go like through the seasons, but like one of the last things that Jason and Melissa say to each other is Melissa's like, "I want to go to the movies," and Jason's like, "Without Brendan, who's gonna sit in the middle?" It's like that. I still think about that because that's it's such a funny thing to say, but it's like so true if like Jason is believing exactly what he says.
Yeah. And maybe that is what he believes now, but we'll see if he has any change of heart throughout the show.
That's a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
That was mainly the reference I was trying to make. When Chris brought up how much he wanted to bring Jason back in some form, either with stuff that was cut out or reaching out to John Benjamin and having him. But just his talking of resurrecting the character of Jason somehow, that made me so happy.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I think that would be awesome. I think that would be so cool, and if they do that, I think they should have Jason give you a message, Marcin.
Yeah. He's going to give me a message like, I heard you don't like it when I put my bum into the camera.
No, he's gonna say something super smart and philosophical, and you're gonna be like, "Damn."
I like listening to your podcast, and I'm like, "Hell yeah, Jason! I don't like when you are mean to me."
I want Jason to tell you that it is okay to embrace your grossness because I love Tim for many, 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 many reasons. And one of those many, many, many reasons is he lets me be gross.
It's true. Yeah.
Be gross. You can be gross. That's fine. I don't think anybody should not be gross because being gross is human. I'll give you that.
Exactly. Yes.
And especially, are we losing the fact that this is a 7-year-old child? Are you going to tell me that you weren't gross at 7 years old?
Yeah.
I think there's some stories on this podcast specifically that I have told about times where I have been gross. And
yeah.
Yeah. One of them you put in the fucking beginning of an episode once. And you're like, yeah, see where this one goes, kiddos.
I just really like that clip because it ends with me calling you Jason.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly where, like, I can understand where some of it might be hypocrisy, but living with Jason himself, my brother. It's like every single day, this motherfucker he'd play on my Xbox 360, and yeah, this is a tangent, and yeah, you better keep this in because I want my brother to hear this shit. We played Xbox 360 in my room, and he would come in there and play, and he would bring cereal, and I'd always say, take it with you when you leave, but he would always leave bowls of cereal under my bed, like it was no big deal. That son of a bitch. I lived with Jason, so maybe that's where part of it comes from. I'll give you that.
Well, I'm gonna counter that by saying you let the bulls sit under your bed.
I didn't know they were there.
But after a while, wouldn't you
Yeah.
start?
Oh, I
checking for
did.
goals?
I did. After a while, I did figure it out.
Oh boy. I mean, as far as the interview goes, we're getting kind of toward the end of it. There are just a couple more things I wanted to touch on. One of the things that genuinely warmed my frigid little heart is when he talked about the archway that Josie had the little bounce chair in, and how it was designed off his actual house, and that's where his actual son sat in his little bounce chair. I'm like, bro, you cannot get any more wholesome than that.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna agree with you.
Okay.
You're right. What's that?
3 cheers for Adele's no. No, but I was gonna say, I think the enjoyment I get out of a lot of artistic endeavors is seeing how much people put of themselves into it. I think that, like, because when you can really see what the artist is trying to say, what they feel, what they care about, I think that's the most relatable thing too. That's the most human thing, and I think that's why I really liked the last episode of Home Movies. We'll get into it, but when he started talking about, like, oh, that's where my child was and where this was, and that's that I based that off the front of my house. It's like, draw what you know. It's like, yeah, you put your soul in this. Like, this is your Horcrux. You know? Yeah. Not in a, like, maybe a better example that isn't like you'll destroy it so you can kill him. But it was such a sweet moment to hear and to know that, like, I'm not the only one who tries to sneak in as much things that I care about into projects.
I love that, though. I love Easter eggs.
But what about the gnomes?
The gnomes are swingers.
That's true.
That's just what it's going to be canon, just because I said.
So Paula is a swinger. We know that for a fact now.
Well, but the thing with the gnomes, and I think we touched on it, but I think I think Chris does not know specifically why gnomes.
Right.
But I think somebody does. I think somebody absolutely does.
I agree.
And I will not rest. No, I'm just kidding.
Can I just say this, that this interview as a whole was such a good listen, because not only was he such a nice person, down to earth, willing to, like, talk to, essentially us who are nobodies.
Right.
But you guys, like, connected really well, and Tim had such good questions, and I'm just really proud of all of us that we got this far. Because I know, Tim, at one point, you did mention that, at some point during this podcast, maybe it'd be like season 3 or 4, we got somebody from the show to interview, and you got somebody to interview season 1 of the podcast. And that's pretty dope.
It really is.
Oh, thank you guys so much. And I guess I never gave, like, the origin. Like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, how did we get here? It was my very last creative corner for season 1. It was the Home Movies Brendan posting group. I had seen Chris make a few posts before, and some of them, one was like, oh, hey, this is a promo for season 1. Like a promo still. Okay, I mean, sometimes you can find those if you're digging around deep enough in the internet. But then he made a post like, hey, this is a frame that I snuck past UPN. One of the top comments was like, hey, I'm sorry. What does this mean? And that's when somebody was like, oh, Chris worked on the show. So, of course, I kind of stalked him a little bit. I looked into his IMDb and everything.
Looked through his mailbox.
Yeah. Peeked in a window. I was like, he seems like a very chill guy. But no, I I also noticed that when I would make, just like the dumbest home movies meme and post it, Chris would pretty consistently react to my memes. So
You hooked him on your memes.
I mean, I was active in the community. He reacted before I reached out about an interview. He reacted to my post about the podcast. So once he did that, I was like, you know what? This message might sit in this dude's inbox forever and he'll never ever see it. Or who knows, he might respond. And all I did was I reached out, kept it short and sweet, said, hey man, huge fan of home movies, huge fan of your work. I have a podcast. If you would ever be interested in sitting down with me for 20 minutes and doing an audio only, we can Skype, whatever, no pressure. If you would ever be interested, just please let me know. And it did take about a week to hear back. But from the jump, he said, yes, let's do this. This sounds great. I'm down. Let's go. And then after that, it was up to me to, one, stop freaking out, figure out a time, date, and then, I reached out to you guys too and was like, what questions do we have for this guy? Again, just could not have been nicer, more accessible, and just, obviously that 20 minutes turned into like an hour. And even messaged me afterwards and was like, dude, that was so much fun. Thank you. And then a couple of days later was like, hey, I'm going to listen to your podcast. And that's when I was like, uh-oh.
Why uh-oh?
I gotta cut out all the ADHD parts real quick.
No. And he hit me back the next day and said he really enjoyed it. He loves our dynamic. And, I couldn't have been happier with how everything went. Again, just so nice, so cool. And from the sounds of it, if we ever wanted to go round 2 on an interview, it sounds like he'd be more than down.
That's awesome.
I'd like a good time frame of like when exactly he was on the show versus so maybe like the last episode he worked on, we could like get him on maybe even for that episode if maybe. But I actually had a thing I was going to say. You were very nervous. I don't know if you're going to keep the bit in the beginning of you like getting ready for the call and like everything you're going through, but I would beg you to keep it in. Just
I think if you keep it in, you should put it at the very end as like a little bonus behind the scenes.
That will definitely. So I will keep that in. It will go at the end. There's about 5 minutes of me on the brink of a breakdown, battling technology with my life. Why don't we even take it a step further and talk about when we first tried to listen to this interview together?
That's a good story for the pod, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the interview is about an hour long. I wanted to play it and get some reactions to it kind of while we were all together in a room. And the way that it recorded on my mixer, it split it up into 3 files. So each file was like 30 minutes. The last file was a couple minutes, whatever. And about 18 minutes into the interview, I think I had gotten up to, I don't even remember what, but you guys were like, oh, the interview stopped. And in my head, I was like, oh, we just got to that 30-minute point, and I just have to play the next file. And I think it was Adele was like, no, it like wasn't over. It just stopped. And that's when we realized that the micro SD card that I had the interview and the last 2 recorded episodes completely corrupted. Like, no shot at plugging it in and doing anything but either format it or... Yeah, it was pretty fucked. Luckily, we do know some people who are pretty tech savvy. They gave us some recommendations for recovery programs to run. We ran one, I think, what did it scan for, like 4 or 5 hours?
Yep.
We ended up just going and buying a new micro SD card, and in the meantime, just recording an episode. That, for me, was a very fake it till you make it kind of episode. Hope that the episode sounds normal. But the entire time in the back of my head, I was devastated because I thought I had lost only the best interview I had done with a person I have so much respect for.
I distinctly remember filming that episode and thinking, "Wow, Tim is faking it really well right
Yeah,
now."
I was doing the same thing. I was like, "There's not," because I have been down that route before on many times when I thought I've lost something as far as an episode goes, or I'm battling technology to save my life. Because when I would record Eldritch Journeys, we would all do it remotely, so I'm recording my end and everyone's recording on their end, and I was always so worried that one of them fucked it up, because there's many times they fucked it up and they didn't record it properly, and I could not, like, you can hear it in my voice that I was so scared. But here I was like, oh wow, so Tim like is super chill about this. Like, of course we're gonna get the episode back. Of course we're gonna get because he's so chill right there. Now that's a good captain right there.
This is a skill I learned in stand-up comedy while doing comedy and battling depression. You sometimes get asked to do stage time, and either you agree to it before you're having a day where, I have to go up on stage and be a little clown boy, and then immediately get off stage, and more often than not, have a nice little fun little breakdown. But yeah, and I at this time, you guys had not heard the entire interview. And I think, Marcin, you had even made a comment. So we were able to recover it, listen to it, it's posted. But you had made a comment after you did listen to the whole thing about, like, yeah, when we lost it, I was just kind of like, man, that sucks. This shit happens, but that sucks. But then after you listened to it, your mentality kind of shifted a little bit to, oh, thank God we did not lose that.
Because it was such an insightful interview. It was so nice. Like the dude is very, very, like, he gets a point, he tells it so well, you like linger on his word. Like, I have been in interviews with people who don't know how to like give me like enough time or like content to put into the interview, and he understood the assignment. It was a really good interview. You did the questions well. It was a very nice back and forth. You had great chemistry. Like, if we had lost that, I would have been devastated, but again, I wouldn't have been able to listen to it. Right. But still, afterwards, I was like, "Oh, I feel your pain."
Yeah, and here's the thing: if we would have lost it, and I reached out to Chris and requested a second interview, he probably would have done it. He's such a nice guy. Oh, he probably would have done it. But would we have recaptured the magic? Who knows? Who's to say?
Mm-hmm.
If we're going full disclosure, this was not the first time I thought I had lost some episodes, and you would think I would have learned my lesson by now. Because what was it, episodes like 4 and 5 or something were almost lost.
You almost lost episodes 3, 4. No, it was 4, 5, and possibly 6.
Yeah. And in my defense on those ones, they were backed up on multiple hard drives that I all fucked up on the same day.
I remember you throwing it in the group chat and being like, "Oh, I'm laying on the ground right now. I'm just gonna try my best, but I think we might have lost some episodes." And I was like, especially, I have lost an episode once that I've had to redub, and me and Nate used to redub episodes all on the daily because our capture card was from Goodwill. So I've been there. I have been there.
So, well, that being said, those were some of the definite, I would say, downs I experienced throughout season 1. But now that it's all out there, by and large, dude, I had so much fun with season 1.
Absolutely.
It was definitely, I did not expect it to go the places it did. I enjoyed the show. There was a couple, honestly, I feel like if I regraded some of the first couple of episodes, I probably would have given it like worse grades, to be honest, based off of where we are now, because the show just got so much better, and it was such a different feel that I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be like I'm so used to adult animated shows right now being like Family Guy, American Dad, like all these gross shows that aren't really funny. There's no charm to it. And then I watch something like this, and it's like, oh, there is love in the world. There is fun, actual charming adult animation that I can actually enjoy and watch and not just be grossed out the entire time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've said it so many times that by and large, in the grand scheme of 4 seasons of this show, season 1 is my least favorite. So the fact that we've had this much fun with the first season, which I mean, if I'm being honest, I thought this was going to be kind of a slug for I thought I was going to have to like really push myself to get through the breakdowns, the editing, the posts, all this because of kind of my attitude towards season 1 before we started this podcast. But it has been so much fun. I'm just so excited to see where we go from here.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it only gets better from here.
Yep.
It seems to I'm still jumping back and forth on if I want to start watching the episodes on my own and then rewatching them with you. I think it could still work, but like I kind of want to wait it for a couple more episodes just because like I do enjoy the experience of us watching it together, and especially watching the last episode of season 1 together was a really fun time for me.
Yeah, that was an episode that even if we were in that format where you watch them ahead of time, that would have been one that I would have requested us all watch together.
Yeah.
And especially with you for the first time. I'm really stoked. I can't wait to kind of see your guys' reactions. We're going to have some S tier episodes coming up, and I'm eager to see how you guys feel about these episodes that mean so much to me.
I am truly, truly excited because like I said, never seen the show before, been watching it and getting past everything. It has become like, I wouldn't say one of my all-time favorite shows, but it's definitely been something that's become something I truly, truly respect and enjoy every time I watch it. It's like Taskmaster to me. Like, I love the show Taskmaster so fucking much, and I have those feelings, I think, that you do, Tim, for home movies that I have for Taskmaster, where I can watch these episodes again and again and again and again, and they are always so good. So that's a big compliment for them to be on the same shelf.
Yeah. Are you excited now that we're over the season 1 hump and you no longer have to deal with squiggle vision, or has it become kind of charming to you?
The squiggle vision, I don't know if I ever hated it, you know? It wasn't so much the squiggle vision that was ugly, but like the character designs too. When I first started watching it, especially when I was a kid and I opened it up and there's Jason with like one big bug eye and a smaller one and just like weird angled mouth and hair. It just like, I think that was more what put me off, because I love Ed, Edd n Eddy, and that's a show that has a kind of similar squiggly vision vibe where the lines are constantly moving the entire time, and I find that incredibly charming.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's the squiggle vision, but I'll tell you what, I am so happy to see like transitions.
Oh yeah.
Just that one part where we're going into the school, like from outside, like going right back in, like that's good. But I also think about the transition shots in season 1, like when they put down, I forget what it was, 1 billion cc's of adrenaline.
Yeah, he pushes down that turkey baster that's supposed to be like a syringe, and that transitions into McGurk putting down his beer at the bar.
Yeah, like they always had the capacity for good visual storytelling. I am so happy to see if they do more with that throughout the show. That's something I'm really, really excited for.
Heck yeah, yeah. We have an episode in season 2 that I promised somebody they could be a guest on. And it's a very specific episode for a very specific reason for a very specific guest.
Are we allowed to know?
Do you want to know?
I mean, I would like to know who's going to be in the room when I walk in.
Yeah. So there's an episode coming up in season 2 called History. That is probably one of the more quotable episodes between my brother and I.
Ooh, it's a
This
brother
show
episode.
being this show being kind of the this show is definitely something my brother and I bonded over very much. Constantly sending each other quotes, gifs, stills, whatever. And there is a very specific episode that we quote probably the most. And when I explained to my brother the what this podcast was going to be and asked if he would have any interest as being a guest, this was the episode he requested. So, but yeah, so that is something we have to look forward to for season 2. Will be one of many possibly guests.
Well, let me promo this too. This is for me. This was my original like vision of the show. Like when you told me you wanted to do this show, I thought it was gonna be you and your brother going through it because of your love for the show, and.
Right.
I was greatly looking forward to seeing that. I'm still very happy it turned out the other way around. I love watching this stuff and like talking to you guys about it. But I have been so excited to see you guys like kind of come into an episode and talk about it, especially one that you both really care about.
Yeah, absolutely. And dude, don't get me wrong. I would have loved if this was like a brother podcast. And I don't necessarily think he would be opposed to that, but I just know with his job and family and time and stuff like that, it probably wouldn't have been as doable for him as it is for us, for example. So, but yeah, I'm excited to have him on an episode. Yeah, obviously, if he has fun and we all vibe good, I'd love to have him on more. But just the fact that multiple people have expressed interest to me about possibly guesting is that, I don't know, that makes me feel pretty good. It makes me feel like, oh yeah, maybe we are doing something right here.
I think 100%. Especially just from the interview alone, I think our heart's in the right place. Like we're trying to, I wouldn't say we're trying to like bring back people's love for home movies because I think it's always going to be there. But I think just putting a highlight on this show of just how good it is and how good it was, I think that's what people really want to touch on, especially people who love the show. They want to be like, well, obviously, I want to honor it just as much as the next guy, and I think you do a great job of doing that.
Oh, thank you very much.
3 cheers for Tim's knowledge.
Well, this show I've explained to pretty much anyone who will listen. I love this show so much, and I want to share it and talk about it. And I know I'm not the only one, so it's so charming. I don't think I can ever get over the charm of this show. Why don't we kind of go ahead and wrap up our feelings about season 1? Let's do this maybe. Is there any particular highlights or lowlights that you can think of when it comes to our time with season 1?
Anytime Dwayne is on screen for me is a highlight.
Oh, 100%. And dude, the songs, oh my God, the songs.
Absolutely. I love a good song.
Both of my S tier episodes that I'm thinking of that are like my top 2, both have Dwayne, and both the music is just so good.
For season 1, obviously a low light is Jason.
Okay.
Like that's the premise of the whole grade. Like that, I'm not like I didn't make this up. This organically happened. Like that was I didn't enjoy every time he showed up just to like be gross on screen. I just don't enjoy watching gross stuff. I don't watch Family Guy because they do vomit and a lot of gross shit for that reason. Jason is a young Peter Griffin in my eyes in the first season. I don't know if he's gonna change. I sure hope he does. But that's my low light as far as that. Rethinking about all the episodes, I think my least favorite episode of the season was probably the cat killing episode.
What? That
Brendan.
was one of my favorites, dude.
I was just thinking back on it. It just I think that was
I
the one I
love the
least.
Peabodys. The Peabodys rocked.
My
Monkey.
Monkey and Mitch Hedberg being on the episode really made it enjoyable. I'm not saying it's like a bad episode. I don't even know what I gave it. I can't remember, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the other episodes. It's just like Monkey, and like that was the fun part, and then the shh when she's crying is so fucking funny. But the best episode is obviously the last episode.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, first AAA plus episode, just so good, so emotional, just so. And again, it just speaks to that this show is just so much more than three kids making movies. It's got so much heart, so much.
I 100% agree. I like I said about the visual storytelling that I wish more shows would do more, especially in animation because they can do so much. But just that one shot of Brendan not saying anything, rewatching his movie, and then the phone rings and he looks over and he can't answer the phone, and it's not even his dad who he's worried about, it's his friends, and it's just like, oh, there's the storytelling. Oh, like he's so paralyzed by his own like fear and not being able of not being loved, and that he's blocking out the people in his life because of that. It was just so good. It was just such a good episode.
Yeah, and I think Chris even speaks to it too, that especially at the beginning, they didn't want animation to take away from the conversation. But as they progressed in their animation abilities, like the show, it does breathe a lot of life into the show. I don't know. I mean, I definitely feel like for me, a highlight for this season, being familiar with the entire series, is we got so many first looks at characters that we're gonna see again in such fantastic episodes. Shannon is one of my favorite characters to see him in an early episode. Steph, the school nurse. I mean, there's so many characters that, you know, we got our first glance at them, and it's definitely not the last, and I'm excited for you guys to experience their, I guess, character arcs, so to speak.
For the end of every season, I was thinking about this. Do we want to do our favorite and least favorite episodes, and our favorite character and our least favorite character?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay, I said my favorite episode and my least favorite episode. Adele, do you have a favorite and least favorite?
Well, I mean, obviously my favorite episode is the last episode of season 1. I think that's pretty much across the board, maybe for all three of us. I'm trying to think of my least favorite episode. Honestly, it might just be the first one, just because it's like, I genuinely don't remember all that went down on the first episode like I did the rest. So I think just by default, I'd say the first one.
Yeah.
Good shout.
I could see that, and I definitely I can kind of relate to that a little bit, because it is, all things considered, the roughest episode. It's the first one. They were still figuring it out. But if I'm looking at kind of a list for season, I should have screenshotted this and sent it to you. But I think looking at all the episodes, probably my least favorite was It Was Supposed to Be Funny.
That's a good one to be the least favorite.
Yeah, just because that one, it really put a strain on Brendan and Melissa's relationship. I didn't like that. Just a lot of aspects of that one were a little too awkward for me, I guess.
The end of the episode.
I would like to change my answer.
Is it that episode?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I feel, thinking back on it now, I was like, that was very, like, a lot of cringy, uncomfortable moments. It's like the Scott's Tots episode of this show. So
Yeah. And then obviously my favorite episode being the season 1 finale, for sure.
Favorite characters or least favorite character? I mean, obviously Jason's my least favorite character for this season. I'm not trying to like get anyone angry, but
too late.
I think my favorite character from the entire season, that's hard. I really like Stephanie, to be honest.
You would.
What do you mean I would? I don't know where the shade's coming from. I'd appreciate an answer to that, but like she's just really she's chaotic in an adjacent sense that isn't like not appealing to watch. Like her having a breakdown, the couch thing fucking kills me. It's just like, no, it was my couch, Richard. I suggested we go shopping, but you didn't pay for it. You didn't even pick it out. But we went shopping. Oh, I'm sitting on the couch. I'm sitting with my shoes on, and you're gone. And then she's like, this is for this, and this is for this. Like, I don't know. Like, there's some sort of energy that I just really like. And when you told me that she's going to be here for another 2 episodes, I got really excited. So I'd say Stephanie.
Wow.
Damn. Well, my least favorite character is Stephanie. For the exact reason why they are your favorite. I think she's inconsiderate. She broke all those plates. She didn't pick up Brendan. She's not a good friend. And you know what? She might be better later on. I know she has like a metamorphosis of sorts. But like, as of season 1, yeah, she's my least favorite for sure.
I agree. I actually agree. I think season 1, my least favorite is Stephanie because, well, but also I know her arc. I know her arc, and I will say in season 1, yeah, that is probably my least favorite Stephanie.
Well, my favorite, I think, is got to be Melissa's dad. I fucking love Melissa's dad. I mean, I think Dwayne is probably up there too, but Melissa's dad has such great humor and such great quotes, and he meditates, and we love a meditating king, so he's my favorite.
I will to piggyback off of that. Eric is a really, really fun. I actually the other day I watched the episode, not the episode. I watched the scene where Eric and Melissa went to dinner, and Paula and Brendan went and got fast food. And just the lines when he's talking to Melissa, he's like, "Oh no, I didn't bring food. I didn't bring cash. We got to sneak out here. Let's put our bandanas on." Like it's just so cute, like dad daughter stuff. I really enjoy. I do think Eric's really fun.
Yeah.
Eric is a real one. That is for sure.
Especially like how do you think they're doing it right now? And he's like, well, they're 8 hours away.
Yeah. Well, along those lines, then I will say probably my favorite character this season. I'm gonna give it to Melissa. I'm gonna give it to Melissa. Melissa is the voice of reason more often than not. I think I can only think of one example where she gave. It wasn't even bad advice. It was just not great advice. And that was when she told Jason that the nurse definitely has interest in him.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like, ooh.
She also did a hand gesture that we aren't but outside of that.
Yeah. I think I'm going to say Melissa one. I think Melissa is... I think she is the glue that holds those three together. She's the voice of reason, and Melissa tells it like it is, and I respect the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Carlos Mencia did steal the joke from her, but it's fine. The one thing about I want to point this out here. Stephanie is a terrible person. I am not trying to defend her on that. I don't even care about her arc. I think she's funny when she's chaotic. And let's just talk about another person who is probably the fan favorite across the board for everybody, who is also a terrible person. Let's give it up for McGurk, who made a woman very uncomfortable several times, and then also committed murder. Continuously tells Brendan the worst advice in the history of the world.
Not all of it's the worst.
Yeah, he did tell Brendan to give his dad a chance.
Yeah.
But
he's dropped some nuggets here and there.
Sometimes. Did you know, actually, that men are like women, but women are not like men?
So, we could probably do a whole episode on that, because I have heard feedback from people specifically being like, there is something to that.
There is, and I actually started writing something.
And here's the thing, and my buddy David and I had a very long talk about this. Essentially, the conclusion we reached is there is something there, but it's also a little bit of a up for interpretation kind of thing. Because where he was coming from and where I was coming from wasn't quite the same, but I think both of us were making sense. So
I think that could be a full episode. We'll do that for a bonus episode if anyone
There you
cares.
go.
And then Adele can weigh in. I'd like to see your interpretation of that because, like, I did have to do some mental gymnastics to try and figure out what I was trying to say the first time.
I'll be the woman opinion of this topic.
Is there anything else?
Grade? Do we want to grade the season?
Grade the season overall. Ooh, okay. Interesting.
I'm gonna give it. Can I go first?
Yeah, please.
I'm gonna give it a B plus because I know it's just gonna get better from here, and I think B is adequate. Sorry.
No need to apologize.
I was about to say I completely agree with you because I was trying to think about it from my grading system with Jason. Like, if he's just there and he's not doing anything, like there's no net negative, like he's not like being better, he hasn't had a nugget of wisdom, he's not a decent character in that episode, I usually just give him a B because he's not gross, he's not bad, he's just there. And if that's what I would do for the season, I would do that based off of the UPN 5. I would give it like a B because it was like it's just there. It didn't do anything bad. But because the season got so good towards the end, I would give it a B plus. I think you're bang on the money there.
Hell yeah!
Damn, that's like almost word for word my exact thought process as well. I was like, again, like knowing where the show goes. I'm not going to sit here and be like, this was an A+ season, because you've got nowhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I think giving it a B is a little unfair. This is the first season. This is the genesis. This started it. Obviously, Khaki Jones saw something in those first 5 episodes that convinced her to bring this show over to Cartoon Network and Adult Swim. So the charm is there. So I think giving it a B is a little unfair, but with knowing where it goes and just everything like that, I'm going to go ahead and give it a B+ as well. This was a very solid B+ season.
Yep. Triple B+.
Hell yeah.
The B+, the BB+, BB+. We'll come up with a...
Squared? No.
Cubed.
Cubed. I don't know.
The cube.
I want my BB+, BB+, BB+.
Well, we'll see you on the next episode.
I want to do the outro live. Let's go ahead and do plugs now.
All right, Adele, why don't you go first?
I have an Instagram, and it is called Artisanal of Oddity. That is, art is anal of oddity. And then I also have a TikTok, which is Elida Alora 1111, ELEDA. And then it's a ALORA 1111.
Make a wish. I got a bunch of plugs as usual. My plugs are a bunch of podcasts that I've also done. Puzzle Valley, which I'd already finished. It's a miniseries from my podcast, Eldritch Journeys. It's a high school teen detective story. I put a lot of work into it. I love it so much. Put my heart and soul into it. And I'm also working on the sequel, Puzzle Valley 2000, which is set in the year 2000. It's like a prequel. Adele, you are a part of it. And
it's true.
And we're having a great time doing it. Soundtrack is already on its way. I've got a lot of work to do with that. I'm also working on Season of the Curse 2 with my YouTube brother-in-arms, Punkin' Nonstop, who has a YouTube channel as well, Punkin' Nonstop. He's got thousands of videos on there, so go check him out. That is not hyperbolic at all. And we're working on Season of the Curse 2, which is a really, really fun project that everyone in this room is working on, Tim and Adele.
Hell yeah.
That will be coming together soon. I'm actually hoping to have it done by the finale of this podcast, because I think that would coincide with Season of the Curse 2, which is an homage to home movies and is itself a home movie, so I think it would fit just right in. And I'm also working on another feature film called The Doorman, which I've been working on since 2016. It's a marathon, not a sprint, so I'm working slowly but surely. I think that... Oh, I just dropped the Eldritch Journeys trailer I've been sitting on for a while, so I'll put that in the show notes as well. The Eldritch Journeys trailer's on my channel, Splat House Ideas.
Nice.
And that's all my plugs.
Hell yeah.
Nice. And as always, this podcast is brought to you by the Happy Corner Podcast. They were nice enough to donate our audio equipment so we could keep this podcast going. So we'd like to give them a nice little plug at the end. The Happy Corner Podcast streams every Sunday at 1:45 Central Time on Twitch. You can find them on YouTube and audio versions wherever you get your podcasts.
And that's going to be it for this episode of Rewatching Home Movies. Thank you for joining us. This was the kind of wrap up for season 1 and commentary on the interview episode. So we will be back next week with season 2. Please keep an eye on your feeds. We might have a special little surprise for you come season 2. Who's to say?
I don't.
Good.
Did we talk about this? What's the
Not with
surprise?
you.
Not with you.
Oh.
Got him. Hey, if you liked what you heard, check out our link tree at linktree/RHMpod. There you could like, follow, and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review, which I will read on the podcast. So that's going to do it for this episode. On behalf of myself, Tim, and my co-hosts,
Me, Marcin.
And me, Adele.
thank you for rewatching home movies with us. We'll see you next week. Bye.